Hello again, it's me, Natus from Drum and Bass Academy, and a quick apology for the sound of my voice. I'm a little bit under the weather at the moment, but we're still going to talk about harmony. And today we're going to talk about passing chords. I thought this would be an interesting topic because the last video was on harmonic rhythm, and passing chords are a really interesting instance of where harmony and rhythm intersect. Before we get started, if you'd like to support the channel a bit more, please consider getting one of our preset bundles, which have some fantastic sounds, at dnbacademy.com. Or you could consider getting one of our producer bundles with masterclasses from people like Icicle, DC Breaks, and Cove, and they'll show you how to make a track from scratch with the included presets and samples. And on the topic of presets and samples, if you'd like to know a bit more about our preset pass, please follow the link in the description below. So in order to understand what a passing chord is, we need to first take a step back and just think about how chords emerge in general. In Western classical music, or pretty much any music that's taken from that tradition, we have scales, and that's pretty much where we start. So say, for instance, I might have an F minor scale here. And so we have a set of notes, which are all the notes in our key of F minor. That's all the scale is, really, just playing all the notes in a key in order. So the way we get chords is pretty much by taking away notes. So say, for instance, if I played all these notes, and then I took away the B flat, the G, the D, and the E, we're left with F minor. So it's almost a bit like a sculptor might take a big piece of marble and then start hacking at it. And then eventually, by taking away things, you get this beautiful statue. It's a bit like that with chords and scales, where scales would be this big hunk of marble and the chords would be the statue in the end. So passing chords kind of use all of that leftover rubble that we just hacked away. And we use it to get between places. So if we start with this F minor chord, and we're in the key of F minor, there are many notes that we're not using that we can use to transition between different inversions of this F minor chord. Just a quick note on inversions. Inversions are basically where the bass note is a different note in the chord. So say if I've got F minor, if I've got F in the bass, this is what we call root position. Whereas if I had an A flat, which is just another chord note in F minor, this would be what we call a first inversion F minor chord. And then likewise, if I had C in the bass, this would be a second inversion chord. So maybe I could cycle between these inversions by going up like this. Now, this sounds nice, it sounds like we've got a bit of movement going, but we could get a bit more flow in there by using these non-chord tones. So I'm going to use G, B flat and D, because we're going to treat all of these different notes like separate voices that are going to move like that. And so we're going to play F minor first, and then travel through this G minor, which is made of non-chord tones. Now, here's where the rhythm and the harmony intersect. Rhythm also has a kind of non-chord tone side of it, you could say, which is that we have a kind of hierarchy of beats in a bar, ones that are stronger, ones that are weaker. And I think most of us will have heard this before, and we intuit very much. Downbeats are very strong, offbeats are quite weak, and depending on which you emphasize, you can create a very different feeling within your song. So if we want to have this feeling of groundedness in harmony, we can have it so that the chord tones land on the downbeats, and the non-chord tones land on offbeats. So that's why we started, for instance, on F. We've got the downbeat, And then we'll have the offbeat be the weaker non-chord tones. And you'll notice it doesn't sound like we're playing two different chords here. It just sounds like we're embellishing F minor. In just the same way that if we just did... It just sounds like a little bit more colourful version of F minor. So in this sense, passing chords don't really count in the same way. And that's why we call them passing chords. That's all they're meant to do. They're not really telling us anything more. They're just kind of an in-between place, like a street. There are more variations on what passing chords can be. So we've looked so far at non-chord tones within a key, but you could also use ones that are outside of keys, which are more what we call chromatic. So, for instance, say I had this C major 7 chord, and perhaps I want to move into an F major chord. And I want something in between. I want a passing chord, something that's going to kind of glue these together. Well, I can just have the voices move in the general direction of F major. They don't actually have to stay in the key. Something like that. So we obviously have this C and this E in common between the two chords. But in between the F major, in between the C major and the F major chords, we can have these two notes go down chromatically. And we get this weird chord in the middle, which is completely unrelated to C major or F major, but it's just a little in-between thing. So those can sound really nice. They sound even better sometimes when you have just a cluster of notes. So rather than having a clear chord, say for instance if we had like a G minor cluster chord and we want to go to F major again, perhaps we can have the voices sort of expand out like this. So we started with these two notes being the extremities, and then they go to these two, and then they go to these two. So there's this kind of burgeoning feeling. And I'm not even playing any real chord here. It's all just the notes in the scale between these two chords. Now that's a really lovely feeling, and that can work really nicely before a drop, where you have this surprise chord, and then this relaxation into a really luscious texture. So those are passing chords. Just remember about your chord tones and non-chord tones, and your strong and weak beats. And then hopefully you should be able to get a bit of glue between those chords and a bit more movement into your harmony. If you found today's video helpful and you'd like to know a bit more about our free educational resources, definitely check out the link in the description below to our DNB Academy free access page. There's lots of free masterclasses, as well as free samples and preset packs, and also ebooks and learning resources. And whilst you're at it, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and also ding the bell if you want future notifications about sound design tutorials and mixing and mastering tips, as well as more music theory advice from me. So, in the meantime, this has been me, Natus, and I hope to see you in the next one.